The first time I saw Kira Vin, she was standing in the processing line at Detention Complex 7 with her hands zipped tied behind her back, dried blood crusting the corner of her mouth, and absolutely no fear whatsoever in her eyes. That should have been my first clue that we had made a catastrophic mistake, but I am getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Throck and I served as a compliance officer for the Galactic Coalition's Pacification Division for 16 cycles before everything went sideways on that miserable rock humans call Earth. Our mission was simple, elegant even. The human species had been flagged as dangerously aggressive after their first contact incident resulted in 3 dead diplomats, 2 destroyed shuttles, and 1 very unfortunate misunderstanding involving what they call a handshake and what our Krillian ambassador interpreted as a prelude to ritual combat. The solution: total weapons confiscation. Every gun, blade, explosive device, and projectile launcher on the entire planet was to be collected, catalogued, and destroyed. Simple, clean. We had done it on 47 other worlds with minimal resistance. Humans, we assumed, would be no different. Oh, how gloriously, spectacularly wrong we were. The operation began well enough. Our enforcement drones swept through the major population centers using deep scan technology to locate firearms, military hardware, and anything else that registered as a weapon. Within 3 planetary rotations, we had collected enough armaments to fill 6 cargo haulers. The humans protested naturally. They always do at first, but protests die down. Compliance follows. Order is restored, except the protests did not die down, and Kira Vin, well, she was one of the reasons why. The incident report I filed 3 months into the occupation described her as a low priority target, female, early 30s, in human years, former military background, but only served 4 years before discharge, lived alone in a rural sector designated Zone 12, approximately 200 kilometers from the nearest major city. No registered weapons, no criminal record, no reason for concern. I should have paid more attention to that military background, should have asked why someone with her skill set chose to live in isolation. Clears throat. Should have wondered what she was doing with all those acres of forest surrounding her property. The first anomaly appeared 6 weeks after initial compliance. 3 of our patrol units went missing in Zone 12, not destroyed. You understand, missing. They simply failed to report back their last known coordinates, placing them on a routine sweep through Kuravan sector. We dispatched recovery teams, found nothing, no wreckage, no bodies, no trace of advanced technology being used against us, just forest, quiet, seemingly empty forest. Commander Zalt, my superior officer and a Bravaxian with all the emotional range of a maintenance spot, declared it a technical malfunction, equipment failure. The drones must have experienced simultaneous system crashes. Never mind that the probability of 3 separate units failing in the exact same location within a 12-hour window was roughly equivalent to me spontaneously developing the ability to photosynthesize. I filed my concerns. They were noted and ignored. The second anomaly came 2 weeks later. A supply convoy, 6 vehicles, strong with armed escorts, vanished on the forest road cutting through Zone 12. This time we sent a full tactical response team, 40 soldiers, heavy armor, air support, weapons hot and ready for engagement. They found the convoy. Vehicles, all 6 of them, completely intact, empty. 24 soldiers gone, no signs of struggle, no blood, no spent ammunition casings. The vehicles' internal logs showed nothing unusual. The soldiers had simply stepped out one by one and walked into the trees. None of them walked back out. That was when Command finally authorized direct action against the occupant of Zone 12. That was when I got my first good look at Kira Van through the surveillance footage as our tactical team surrounded her property. She was outside when we arrived, tending to what appeared to be a vegetable garden, wearing dirt-stained pants and a faded shirt with some incomprehensible human text on it. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy knot. She looked up at the approaching gunships with the kind of mild interest most people reserve for checking the weather. Not fear, not panic, not even surprise. Just curiosity. The tactical team's leader, a by-the-book Herovian named Kellex, used the external speakers to deliver the standard compliance order. Kira Vin was to surrender immediately. She was to submit to detention and questioning regarding the missing personnel. Failure to comply would result in the use of necessary force. Kira stood up, brushed dirt off her knees and smiled. Actually smiled. Then she raised her hands above her head and walked toward the gunships with the relaxed gait of someone taking an afternoon stroll. No resistance, no weapons, no threats. Kellex was pleased with himself. I could hear it in his voice as he reported the successful apprehension. Easy capture, textbook operation. Subject secured without incident. I felt uneasy, could not explain why, just something about the way she had smiled. They brought her to Complex 7, processed her, placed her in a standard holding cell, and scheduled her interrogation. For the following morning, I was assigned as the primary interviewer, partly because of my experience with human psychology and partly because I had been the one raising concerns about Zone 12 from the beginning. I spent that evening reviewing everything we knew about Kurovin. Military service, yes, but in a specialized unit, something called Force Reconnaissance. The translator struggled with the exact meaning, but the gist seemed to be that she had been trained in survival, infiltration, and what humans euphemistically refer to as unconventional warfare. She had received multiple commendations, expert marksman, advanced hand-to-hand combat certifications, wilderness survival instructor ratings. Then 4 years into her service, an abrupt discharge. Medical reasons, the file said. No details. I made a note to ask about that. The interrogation room at Complex 7 was designed to be intimidating. Bare walls, harsh lighting, temperature controls that could make subjects uncomfortable at the flick of a switch. I entered to find Kira Van sitting at the metal table, still zip-tied, looking for all the world like she was waiting for a cup of that bitter bean liquid humans consume in obscene quantities. Coffee, I think they call it. I sat down across from her, activated the recording system, stated the date, time, and purpose of the interview for the record. Kira waited. I opened with the standard approach, informed her of the charges, explained the evidence, gave her the opportunity to cooperate. She listened politely, then she spoke her first words. Since apprehension, you have no idea what you have done, do you? Her voice was calm, almost gentle, the tone you might use with a child who had just broken something valuable. Without understanding its importance, I felt that unease intensify. We are aware of our actions, I replied, maintaining professional composure. 24 coalition soldiers are missing. Multiple drones destroyed. You are the primary suspect in their disappearance. I did not say you did not know what happened to your people, Kira said, leaning back in her chair as much as the restraints allowed. I said you have no idea what you have done. There is a difference, then enlighten me. She studied me for a long moment. Those eyes, I noticed, were an unusual shade of gray-green, like storm clouds over forest. They held something I could not quite identify, not malice, not quite amusement either, something else, pity. Perhaps you came to Earth, she began, speaking slowly as if choosing each word with care, and you took away every gun, every knife, every weapon we had legally acquired, registered, stored. You thought you were making us safe, making yourselves safe from us. That was the intention, yes. Do you know what makes humans dangerous? Kira asked. The question sounded genuine, not rhetorical. It is not the weapons we carry, it is the fact that we are the ones who invented them in the first place. You can confiscate every tool of violence on the planet, but you cannot confiscate the ability to create new ones, I said. Nothing waited for her to continue. My property, she went on, sits on 230 acres of woodland, oak, pine, maple, ash. Good strong hardwood. Do you know what you can make from hardwood? If you know what you are doing, I assume you are about to tell me. That smile again, the one that made my secondary stomach clench. Bows, Kira said simply. Good ones, strong ones, accurate up to 80 m. In the right hands. I have been making them since I was 12 years old. My grandfather taught me, used to say that weapon you make yourself will never betray you because you understand every part of it, every curve, every weakness, every strength. She shifted in her seat, the zip ties creaking against her wrists. I also know how to make arrows, how to fletch them with crow feathers, how to weight them properly, how to sharpen stone into points that will punch through soft armor. Your soldiers, she tilted her head, they wear very good armor, excellent against projectiles, energy weapons, blades, not so excellent against wooden shafts, traveling at 90 ms from unexpected angles. My blood, all three types, ran cold. You are confessing to the murder of coalition personnel. I am explaining what happens when you assume humans are helpless without their technology. Kira's voice remained conversational, almost friendly. Your drones, they hover at predictable heights, follow predictable patterns, make predictable sounds, easy to track, easy to ambush, easy to disable with weighted ropes thrown into their rotors, easy to drag down and tear apart for components. The soldiers walked into a forest that I have spent 5 years turning into a defensive position. Kira interrupted. Trails that look natural but funnel movement, deadfalls disguised as fallen logs, pits covered with leaves, trip lines that trigger nothing immediately, just mark locations for later targeting. Your people never stood a chance because they were looking for technology, for energy signatures, for thermal readings. They were not looking for Stone Age tactics deployed by someone who actually knows how to use them. I stared at her, tried to reconcile this calm, soft-spoken woman with the image of someone systematically hunting coalition soldiers through the Woods, where are the bodies? I asked. Finally, why would there be bodies? Kira looked genuinely puzzled. I am not a murderer. Your people are alive, well, fed, hydrated, completely unharmed. Apart from some bruised pride and a few non-lethal arrow wounds, what they are. Secured in a bunker system I built under my property, old root cellar network. Expanded and reinforced, very comfortable. I even gave them blankets. It gets cold at night. She paused. I was going to return them eventually once you left Earth, but then you had to come arrest me, and now we have a different situation entirely. I activated my communicator, requested immediate verification. Within minutes I had my answer. Deep scan technology, finely tuned to detect human biosigns. Specifically had found them, 27 coalition personnel alive and detained in underground structures beneath Karavan's property. Why? I asked, genuinely baffled. Why capture them? Why not simply evade? Kira leaned forward, chains rattling. Because I needed you to understand something very important before more of you die unnecessarily. You see, I am just one person, one human, with some trees and some time and some knowledge. But there are 8 billion of us on this planet. How many do you think have the same skills I do? How many do you think are right now in their garages, their basement, their workshops, figuring out how to make crossbows, catapults, ballistic weapons from pipe and propellant? How many do you think are teaching their neighbors? She let that sink in. You took our weapons, Kira continued softly. You did not take our ability to make new ones. You did not take our creativity, our adaptability, our spite. You certainly did not take our memory of exactly how violent we can be when we decide violence is necessary. I had no response to that. So here is what is going to happen, Kira said, sitting back again. You are going to release me. You are going to release every other human you have detained. You are going to pack up your occupation, force, and leave Earth, and in exchange I will release your people unharmed and provide you safe passage off planet. And if we refuse, the smile disappeared. What replaced it was something far more frightening, something cold and ancient, and utterly without mercy. Then I go back to my woods, Karavan said quietly, and I teach every person within a 100 km how to do exactly what I did, and we spread that knowledge, and we build our bows, and we dig our pits, and we turn this entire planet into a killing field. That will make your history files weep. She leaned forward one more time, close enough that I could see my reflection in those storm-cloud eyes. We are humans, she whispered. We weaponized fire when we lived in caves. We weaponized atoms when we reached for the stars. You think taking our guns will stop us? We will go back to sticks and stones if we have to, and we will still find a way to win, because that is what we do. That is all we have ever done. The interrogation ended there. I had no more questions. What questions could I possibly ask? After that, I filed my report, included Kira's statements, added my own recommendation that we accept her terms immediately. Commander Zool read it, laughed, actual laughter. Then he ordered Kira transferred to maximum security pending trial for terrorism and murder. That was 2 days ago. This morning I woke to emergency alerts. Detention Complex 7 was under attack, not from outside, from inside. Kira had escaped her cell using a lockpick fashioned from a metal fragment. Torn from her own bunk frame, she had disabled 3 guards using techniques I still do not fully understand. She had accessed the communications array and broadcast something to the entire human population of Earth. 3 words make them pay, and they are, oh they are. Reports are flooding in from every sector, humans building weapons from scratch, organizing resistance cells, using tactics we have never encountered, because they predate modern warfare by millennia. Our technology is useless against an enemy that refuses to use technology. Our weapons are ineffective against people who attack from shadows with tools made of wood and stone and pure human ingenuity. We are losing to a species we thought we had disarmed, and somewhere out there in Zone 12, Huravan Viven has returned to her forest, returned to her trees, returned to teaching anyone who will listen exactly how to turn the world itself into a weapon. I submitted my resignation this morning. It was rejected. I am being reassigned instead to negotiations, because apparently command has finally realized what I tried to tell them from the beginning. We never confiscated the real weapons, we just made humans angry enough to remember how to use them. The negotiation chamber they assigned me was located in what humans call Geneva, inside a building that had once housed something called the United Nations. The irony was not lost on me. We had chosen their temple of diplomacy to discuss our surrender, because that is what this was. Despite the careful language command insisted I use, tactical repositioning, strategic withdrawal, mutual de-escalation, all pretty words for the same ugly truth we had lost 3 months after Keira Vin's broadcast. The occupation of Earth had become an unmitigated disaster. Our casualty reports read like something from the Nightmare Archives. 1,700 personnel dead or missing, 42 installations overrun, 6 major cities rendered too dangerous for patrols, and the humans, they just kept coming, kept adapting, kept turning everything around them into instruments of death with a cheerfulness that bordered on psychotic. Last week, a resistance cell in the territory called Australia had used trained birds to deliver explosive packages to our communication towers. Birds, actual living creatures, weaponized through nothing more sophisticated than food rewards and patience. The tactic worked flawlessly, cost us our entire Eastern surveillance network. Before that, a group in the Scandinavian regions had used nothing but ice and copper wire to create traps that froze our equipment solid, literally froze multi-million credit advanced technology using frozen water. When our engineers examined the wreckage, they found human children's science textbook diagrams among the debris. We were being defeated by elementary school physics. The humans had even given their resistance a name, the Primalist movement, because they were fighting us with primitive weapons and primal fury. Their propaganda broadcasts, which we could not shut down, no matter how hard we tried, featured images of smiling civilians holding homemade crossbows next to slogans like "Back to Basics" and "Humanity Unplugged." They were having fun, actually enjoying the process of dismantling our occupation with Stone Age technology. And spite, I arrived at the negotiation chamber 30 minutes early as protocol demanded. The room was large, circular, with windows overlooking the city below. I could see smoke rising from at least 3 locations, fires probably. The Humans had discovered that our fire suppression systems could be overwhelmed through coordinated simultaneous ignitions. They had been testing that weakness with increasing enthusiasm. The human delegation arrived precisely on time. 7 representatives from different regions, ages, and backgrounds. I recognized the woman leading them immediately. Kira Venn looked different than she had in detention. Her hair was longer now, braided elaborately with what appeared to be small bones woven into the strands. Bird bones, I realized with a shudder. She wore clothing made from leather and rough fabric, a deliberate rejection of modern materials. A bow, beautifully crafted from dark wood, was slung across her back. Arrows fletched with red feathers protruded from a quiver at her hip. She saw me staring and smiled that same unsettling smile from our interrogation. Officer Throck, she said, her pronunciation of my name nearly perfect. I was hoping they would send you. You were one of the few who actually listened. I recommended accepting your terms, I said stiffly. I was overruled. I know, I read your file. She sat down at the negotiation table without waiting for invitation. The other humans followed her lead. You tried to warn them. They did not listen. Now here we are. Here we are, I echoed, taking my own seat. Shall we begin? The next 4 hours were among the most humbling of my entire life. Kira and her fellow delegates outlined their terms with the precision of seasoned military strategists. Complete withdrawal of all coalition forces within 90 planetary rotations, removal of all surveillance equipment, weapons platforms, and administrative infrastructure. Formal apology from the Galactic Coalition for the illegal occupation. Reparations paid in raw materials and technology, specifically medical and agricultural advancements. And most cutting of all, a binding agreement that Earth would be granted full sovereignty with permanent observer status in coalition affairs. No future interference, no restrictions, no limitations on their development or expansion. They wanted everything we had taken, plus compensation for the inconvenience. Commander Zool, participating via holographic link, objected to nearly every point. The reparations were excessive. The timeline was too aggressive. The sovereignty clause was unprecedented. Kira let him finish his complaints before responding with devastating calm. Commander, let me clarify our position. These are not opening offers subject to negotiation. These are the minimum requirements for a peaceful resolution. If you refuse, we will continue our resistance until every single coalition soldier is dead or has fled the planet. Then we will reverse engineer your abandoned technology, build our own ships, and come find you. These scales flushed in ugly purple color that indicated extreme agitation. You are threatening interstellar war. Your species has barely achieved orbital flight. You possess no faster than light capability. No, yet, interrupted one of the other human delegates, a gay-haired man with scarring across his face. His accent identified him as being from the American territories. We don't possess those things yet, but we will. We always do. You know our history, Commander. You studied us before coming here. How long did it take us to go from the first powered flight to landing on our moon? 66 years. From splitting the atom to harnessing fusion. 70 years. We are very, very good at learning new things when we are motivated. And right now, Kira added pleasantly, we are extremely motivated. Zul tried a different approach, even if we agreed to these terms, what guarantee do we have that you will honor the peace, that you will not use the technology we provide to attack coalition worlds? Kira looked genuinely offended. We are not conquerors. Commander, we never wanted to fight you. You came here, you invaded our world. You took our property without permission or compensation. We defended ourselves, using the only means available, that is not aggression. That is self-defense. You killed 1,700 of our personnel. Actually, Kira corrected gently, we killed 412. The rest are alive, captured, being held in various locations across the planet, in conditions that meet or exceed your own standards for prisoner treatment. We can provide you with the coordinates if you would like to verify. The chamber went silent. Z's hologram flickered. You. What? We are not monsters, Kira said. And for the first time, I heard genuine anger in her voice. We know the difference between soldiers following orders and actual enemies. Your people were doing their jobs badly, but still, most of them surrendered peacefully once they realized they were outmatched. We fed them, gave them medical care, kept them safe. Did you think we were just slaughtering everyone indiscriminately? I checked my data pad frantically, pulling up casualty reports, cross-referenced with missing personnel files. She was right, the numbers matched. 1,300 coalition soldiers listed as missing or presumed dead were actually alive in human custody. We had assumed the worst, prepared memorial services, notified families, and the humans had been keeping them in what one report described as surprisingly comfortable underground facilities with regular meals and entertainment options. Why? I asked, unable to stop myself. Why keep them alive? Why not use them as hostages, leverage? Kira turned those Stormcloud eyes on me. Because that is not who we are, Officer Throck. Yes, we can be violent when necessary. Yes, we can fight and kill and destroy with horrifying efficiency. But we can also choose mercy, choose restraint, choose to be better than our worst impulses. She gestured at the windows at the burning city beyond. All of this, the resistance, the weapons, the fighting, we did not want any of it. We just wanted you to leave us alone. One of the younger human delegates, a woman who had remained silent until now, spoke up. Her voice carried the musical accent of the Indian subcontinent. There is a saying in my language, Himsa Paramo Dharma. It means nonviolence is the highest moral principle, but it is only half the saying. The full version continues. Dharma Himsa Tadavacha, violence in service of righteousness is also righteousness. She looked directly at Zolt's hologram. We tried peace, you refused, so we gave you war. Now we are offering peace again. I suggest you accept while the offer still stands. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. Zul tried everything. Threats, bargaining, appeals to galactic law. Nothing worked. The humans held every advantage, and they knew it. They had proven themselves capable of sustained resistance using minimal resources, had demonstrated tactical creativity that surpassed anything in our military databases, had shown the kind of unified determination that made occupations impossible, and they had done it all without advanced technology. On the 4th day, Zul capitulated, accepted the terms in full, the formal Documents were signed in a ceremony that human media broadcast across their entire planet. I watched Kira in place, her mark on the treaty with the same calm confidence she had shown in the interrogation room all those months ago. The withdrawal began immediately. Ships descended to collect our forces. Equipment was dismantled and loaded onto cargo haulers. Installations were deconstructed. Within 60 days, the coalition presence on Earth had been reduced to a single diplomatic outpost staffed by volunteers. I was one of them. Command offered me a promotion to accept a position off-world. I declined, requested assignment to the Earth Embassy instead. They thought I was insane. Maybe I was. But I needed to understand, needed to know how a species could be so simultaneously violent and merciful, so primitive and advanced, so frightening and strangely inspiring. Kira visited me at the embassy 2 weeks after the last military transport departed. She arrived alone on foot, wearing modern clothing this time, jeans and a jacket. I think the garments are called. The bow was absent, but I had no doubt she could produce a weapon within seconds if needed. We sat in the garden area drinking that bitter coffee, substance humans loved. She took hers. Black. I attempted mine with 4 different sweeteners and still found it barely tolerable. You stayed, she observed, not a question. I did. Why? I considered the question carefully. Because I need to learn. Your species defeated us using methods we had classified as obsolete, primitive, ineffective. Either our entire military doctrine is fundamentally flawed, or we have been drastically underestimating the value of simplicity. I need to understand which. Kira smiled, but this time it reached. Her eyes softened them. Both, she said. Simply, your doctrine is flawed because it assumes technology equals superiority. And you absolutely underestimated simplicity. Humans have a phrase, keep it simple, stupid. The more complex a system, the more ways it can fail. The more dependent you are on advanced tools, the more vulnerable you become when those tools are taken away. So you intentionally chose primitive weapons. We chose effective weapons, Kira corrected. A bow is not primitive. It is elegant, quiet, reliable, easy to manufacture and maintain. Deadly skilled hands, no power source required. No electronic signature to track, no ammunition shortages, just wood, string, and arrows. Sometimes the old ways work because they have been refined over thousands of years of actual use. She sipped her coffee, looking out at the garden where human and alien plants grew side by side in an experimental integration project. You want to know the real secret? She asked quietly. The thing that made the difference. Please. We never forgot where we came from. Every human child learns about our history, about the caves and the fires, the first tools, the first weapons, the long brutal climb from prey animals to apex predators. We remember that our ancestors survived ice ages with nothing but stone and determination. We remember that we built civilizations before we had electricity, before we had metal, before we had anything but our hands and our brains and our refusal to give up. She turned to face me fully. You tried to disarm us, but you cannot disarm 10,000 years of accumulated survival knowledge. You cannot confiscate the memories of how our species learned to thrive in a world that wanted us dead. Every human carries that legacy in their bones, so when you took our modern Weapons we just reached back. Remembered, started over from principles. We never actually forgot, that is. Terrifying, I admitted that is humanity. Kira replied, we are terrifying when we need to be. But we can also be kind. Creative, cooperative, compassionate. You only saw the violence because that is all you gave us room to show. Come back in a few years, see what we build. When we are not busy defending ourselves. I think you will be surprised. She finished her coffee, stood and extended her hand. I recognized the gesture this time, a handshake, not a prelude to combat, just contact, acknowledgement. Respect. I took her hand carefully. Her grip was firm but not crushing. Thank you for listening, Officer Throck. Both then and now, we need more people like you on both sides. Then she was gone, walking back into the city with the easy confidence of someone who had nothing left to prove. I remained in the garden, thinking about everything that had happened, about weapons we could not confiscate, about resilience we could not break, about a species that could forge knives from nothing, turn forests into battlefields and still choose mercy when victory was within reach. My report to Coalition Command was extensive, detailed, unflinching in its assessment. Humanity, I wrote, should never be underestimated again, not because of their technology, not because of their weapons, but because of their fundamental nature. They are a species that weaponizes everything, including their own limitations. They turn obstacles into advantages, disadvantages into strategies. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered, learn faster, innovate faster, and most dangerously of all, they remember. They remember every lesson, every defeat, every victory. They pass that knowledge down through generations, refine it, expand it, and keep it alive in their collective consciousness. You cannot make them forget, cannot make them helpless, cannot make them give up. All you can do is choose whether to have them as enemies or allies. We chose poorly once, let us not make that mistake again. The report was filed, read, discussed at the highest levels of coalition government. New protocols were established, new policies implemented. Earth was granted full membership status, with voting rights. Technology exchanges began, trade agreements were signed. Humans in turn shared something unexpected. Not weapons, not military tactics. They shared their music, their art, their literature, their stories of struggle and triumph, and everything in between. They taught us their philosophy, their humor, their endless capacity for finding joy in the strangest places, and slowly, carefully, they began teaching select coalition scientists the old ways, how to make fire without technology, how to craft tools from natural materials, how to survive when all your sophisticated equipment fails. Just in case, they said, just so you know you can. I still serve at the Earth Embassy, still learning, still trying to understand the species that defeated us with bows and arrows and sheer stubborn determination. Sometimes I see Kira in the city. She runs a school now, teaching wilderness survival and traditional crafts to anyone interested. Children love her classes, adults too. She waves when she sees me. I wave back. We are not friends exactly, but we are not enemies either. We are something new, something that did not exist before the occupation. We are two species who learned the hard way. That strength comes in many forms, that technology is a tool, not a guarantee. that the most dangerous weapon any being can possess is not a gun or a bomb or an energy lance, it is knowledge, creativity, adaptability, and the will to use them all. Humans have those qualities in abundance. Coalition Command wanted me to assess whether they pose a threat to galactic stability. My answer: yes, absolutely, without question, but they also pose an opportunity, a chance to learn from a species that refused to be conquered, that turned deprivation into innovation, that built kill zones from wood and wire and still chose mercy over massacre. I think in time humanity will reshape the galaxy, not through force, though they certainly could, but through the same persistent creativity that let them turn confiscation into resistance, defeat into victory, and enemies into whatever it is we are becoming. I am looking forward to finding out, even if it terrifies me, especially because it terrifies me because fear I have learned is often just respect that has not yet found the right words to express itself, and I respect humanity very much. Indeed.